Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint. This webcast is for prospects, coaches, and those who support those prospects so they best understand what it takes to go from one level to another, what to embrace and what to avoid, and get to whatever that next level might be. I'm Kelly Kleiman, and my battery mate, as always, is Mr. Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB vet and fan favorite with the Twinkies, the Twins, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Brewers, and the Cleveland Indians, and the Dodgers, and in 1983, of course, the World Series MVP for the Baltimore Orioles. Hi, Rick.
Thank you. How are you?
always good. Good to be with you. Actually, 2 weeks in a row. We had a little bit of a break there, so it's great to be back on. Today's guest is someone we've been chasing down for quite some time. Been trying to sync up with this guy for several months, and finally, we've been able to corner him. So for you prospects looking to find out what a pro scout is looking for in a player, here's Jim Stevenson, an area scout for the world champion Houston Astros, who has also scouted for the Brewers and the Indians. He has a knack for finding players in every nook and cranny, and including Canada. And we're excited to get his insights because right now it is a confusing mess out there for prospects who have no idea what the future holds. And that's because of the portal. That's because of the changes in the minor league system, so on and so forth. I now hand over the microphone, batting in the number one position as usual, Mr. Rick Dempsey.
First of all, Jimmy, welcome to the show. Congratulations on that World Series ring you're going to be getting. That's going to be pretty special. Man, I want to get into your brain and find out how the Houston Astros have managed to be such a strong ball club the last few years in Major League Baseball. But let's go back. I know that you have been around for almost 3 decades now scouting, but what has the differences been between when you first came into scouting and the current situation? Now, you guys get good players, although there's not as many drafts around anymore. A few drafts at all. Everything has changed.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Rick and Kelly. I sure appreciate it. I'm very honored to be on your show. That's a great question. Because, I started my first year was in the 93 draft with the Indians. So I was out of baseball for, this is my 25th. I just finished. So I was out for about 3 years between the Indians and the Brewers. And so there's been a lot of change, obviously, as you know, from, the drafts back in 93 to where we're at now, where we were drafting guys back there till you got tired of drafting them. Teams had quit at about 100, 110. Sometimes, and there'd be 50 guys were drafting follow guys to go into JuCos, and then it got cut back to about 50 rounds somewhere in the early 2000s, and then we narrowed it back down to 40 rounds, and now we're to 20 rounds, and every organization's down 2 clubs, so space is limited, and so we don't have as much room to really dig as deep as I would like to as an area scout, go get guys. I mean, I've had more success probably after the 20th round than before it, So now we'll still sign a few free agents here and there after the draft, some college guys. I think it's a maximum of 20 or 25K, whatever they get. But we sign 4 or 5 of those guys every year. So yeah, a lot's changed from when I started to now. Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you look for in players performance wise? I know that how deep do you get into it? This is where a lot of things have changed. The way that you're actually trying to check up on a guy on how well he's doing on social media, all those kind of things. How deep do you actually go in order to get the kind of players that you get?
Well, that's an interesting question, and it's more involved now than it ever was. We never dug too deep into the background. You more or less laid in the weeds on guys, and you didn't want any other scouts to know you were on guys, so you played it close to the vest. And now the information world we're living in now, everybody's under a microscope, so we get so much information from off the field, on the field, at the stadium, what these kids, all the measurements and the analytics and all that stuff too. So we have almost too much information, it seems, now than before, where you just basically went off your gut feel and your trust and what you saw when you were at the stadium and had a chance maybe to visit with the kid after. Now it's Zoom meetings and calls, and the GM wants on them and the scouting directors, and very in depth now.
Yeah. Well, we did mention finding players in all the nooks and crannies, including Canada, which you could work that into the conversation for sure. But with the advent of the portal, a lot of high quality players are spilling over into D2 and even D3 just to keep their game going. Do you now look at those divisions, or will you look at those divisions a little bit more carefully as being a slightly bit more target rich environment than, say, in previous years, at least for position players?
Well, that's a good question. I try to on a personal level, but now when we're down to 20 rounds, I think a lot of those guys are losing an opportunity now. They're overlooked. We don't have the information on these guys like the D2s, the AIs. They don't have the TrackMan units at their stadium. So we don't have that kind of data to support what the scout might see and put in his report. So there's a double-edged sword there. So you really have to trust your instincts, trust what you see, and you better sell them pretty good in the room. So it's a lot tougher sell on those guys. Even though we've been successful, we had two that played in the World Series on the roster. Hensley and McCormick were both, $1,000 senior signs, late round picks. So we're going to still keep shopping there. I hope and expect, and I hope the industry does. But I think losing those 20 rounds from 40 to 20 is going to hurt those guys, But with the portal being what it is now, a lot of these guys are getting kicked back to the D2s now. So I think it's going to raise the quality of play there, where they may get better players, and obviously a place that we're going to continue to look.
Kind of staying on that theme, but going into the JuCo end of it now because of the situation. I mean, it seems as though JuCos are a huge beneficiary of the portal, and even to some extent, COVID has helped drive high school, at least a couple high school classes, into JC development, or primarily red-shirted guys from, let's say, 20 who didn't get to see action because of bloated COVID rosters. Do you think the next couple of years might be especially strong for JuCo signees, in your opinion? It seems as though, because there's so much movement in D1 baseball, that it seems like it would be a relatively smart breeding ground, because so many of them can't go anywhere because everyone's pulling guys out of other D1s that went into the portal.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I see it a lot of these big D1s where they have 40 guys and on their team in the fall workouts, and 25-man pitching, guys going out to pitch in the fall, and so a lot of those guys are getting kicked back, I believe, and I think if they leave at semester, the JuCo option is really one of their only options. So absolutely, I think it'll improve the quality of baseball.
Yeah. Lost the audio. We lost your audio.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, now you're good.
You're back.
How strange is that? I'll ask the question again. I'll just be real brief with it, though. Okay. So JuCo seems to be a huge beneficiary of the portal, to some extent, at least, because COVID has helped drive a high school class or two, and I know at least a class of 20, some of the class of 19 into JC development mode, primarily redshirt guys when the rosters were expanded due to COVID. Are the next couple of years especially strong for JuCo signees, in your opinion? And then you did mention that you only signed 4 or 5 guys. Is that actually a limit, or are you allowed to sign as many as you want?
No, to answer your that question there, no, we are not limited. After the 20th round, you can sign as many players as you want for, I think it's 20K or 25K. In 2020, after the draft, I think we did 10 when it was only the 5-round draft. I think last year we did 2 in 2022. So, yeah, there's no limit. You can sign as many as you want. It doesn't matter, and which is good because I think it really helps. it takes 10 really good ones to have one good one, almost, you know what I'm saying? So I'd rather take my chances and sign 10 arms or guys we really liked and give them an opportunity and get them out there. And I hope Major League Baseball, I hope all the teams do it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that's the way it should be. But you have limits. You can only sign so many players, like 150 players in your system or something like that in the U.S. So there are some limits also. So, and every time you sign somebody, you have to release somebody basically too. So, it's kind of a catch-22 there. Also, you may want to give a guy another year of getting better, or you may want to get rid of a guy. So there's a cost to add another player. I think I think it's a definite benefit now for the JuCo programs, because there's the D1s are so full of players, and I think there's 1,000 still in the portal, if I'm not mistaken, still looking for a place to play. Now I don't know what eligibility years they are, but they're even stacked with the freshmen and the sophomores, and kids want to play, and kids need to play. They need to be on the field getting innings and ABs, and I mean, it's a great opportunity. You can still go back and do D1 at a different time, but I think if kids don't seem like they have an opportunity there in the near future, going the JuCo route is definitely an option that gives kids innings and at bats that they need.
Okay, well, all right. So we got Jimmy can hear me good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the players, Jimmy. Who are some of the best discoveries that you've made, and some of them that have got away? I mean, every scout has that one guy that they loved, but someone else beat him to the punch. I'm sure that's happened to you. You've been around it for so darn long. But throw some names out there. I like to hear about the guys that you've signed that have really done well.
Well, I got a good list of guys that I've signed, and I've been blessed and fortunate to have the opportunity to sign and get to know some of these kids. But if you want to talk about the guys, first of all, that they got away or I didn't get in the boat, I would say the two stand out, because I drafted Jake Arrieta out of junior college, and
wow,
in like the 16th or 17th round, and he was a freshman, I believe. Yeah, he was a freshman. Took him in the 16th, 17th round, and he won about $150,000. So I had him pitch in a summer league game for the McKinney Marshals for their scouting director to come see. And it was about 110 that day. It was 10 or 11 in the morning, the game. And I thought he threw really well. And it turns out we didn't get I didn't get the money I wanted to sign him. And he went on to TCU and got $1 million in the 5th round 2 years later, and end up winning a Cy Young, obviously. So that was a tough one to swallow. The other one who I really thought I was going to get was the kid out of Little Rock that pitched for the Pirates and the Yankees forever. I just drew a blank. It'll hit me in a second. But probably some of the best kids I've had, was obviously Keuchel had the most success, I believe. He won a Cy Young. He's a Tulsa kid, went to University of Arkansas, and Dallas pitched well for us for several years. Giovanni Gallardo with Milwaukee Brewers had a good career. Gallardo, Keuchel. Took a kid out of JuCo, Ramon Laureano, who we traded to Oakland, the center fielder over there, who burst onto the scene there a couple of years back with a big arm and throwing guys out. Josh James, a kid who pitched out of the pen for us. In 19 had a good run. He's been injury riddled since, had a big arm. A kid named Abraham Toro, another JuCo guy who we traded to Seattle, and Seattle moved him now to Cleveland, maybe it was. I can't remember who they moved them for now. Adrian Hauser with the Brewers, and then some under the radar guys, that were unheralded, the Jack Mayfields of the world, and my first guy I ever signed, a kid named Mike Bassick. You remember his dad, Mike Bassick, who pitched in the big leagues also for a while. Dana Evelyn, the kid from he was from California, went to JuCo out here in Texas. So I've had a pretty good run. So
well, I'll tell you what, that Jake Arrieta, I watched him pitch every game he pitched for the Orioles, and I was heartbroken and really kind of angry when they decided to get rid of him to the Cubs. You know, everybody was so worried about him throwing across his body. I've caught guys like that before, you know, and they've been pretty effective. You just have to learn how to deal with it, you know. Sometimes move him across on the pitcher's mound so that it frees up the outside corner to right-handers a little bit more. But man, oh man, I was so disappointed when we traded Jake Arrieta, a young pitcher, that young, and had that much good stuff, because he would miss the strike zone. He just wasn't really totally in command of all of his pitches yet. But that guy had a lot of promise. He proved it for the Cubs. And the Orioles just blew a big opportunity to have a big name pitcher in the middle of that rotation that they were looking for, and they blew it. Did the same thing with Bundy and a few others do. But my God, what a pick that really was. That's good scouting if you saw a lot in that kid. He was awesome.
He was the body, the arm, the makeup, you know, he got his outs in the zone. He attacked the zone. I mean, it was a sinker slider attack when he was in junior college, and you just knew this kid was going to flourish. You know, I mean, it was a no brainer, I thought. And
it's just a matter of time, slowing him down a little bit in the delivery and get that release point out of him, which was my forte as a catcher. The most important part of the delivery is the release point. Forget everything else. I don't care if he throws across his body. I knew how nasty he'd be.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's good to hear. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Anyway, okay. Well, you know, when you're out there looking for players, are you given a list of the talent that you're looking for, or the best, or do you guys just sign the best guys that are available at the time?
You mean a list of who to go see? You mean, or
you know, like they say, well, we want definite starting pitchers. We don't want guys out of the bullpen. We want a shortstop. We want a center fielder. You build your club up the middle, so you're looking for those kind of guys. So, I mean, how do they do it with the Houston Astros, and specifically with you?
You know what? We are free to see and write up and put on our pref list any players that we like. But that being said, we're also given a target list of the guys at the top. Everyone knows who they are, you know, and we dig pretty deep on those guys and try to do as much as we can, gathering information and scout looks and get all the data and all that information. But there's no formula that we use where it's, hey, we're just going for pitchers, or, you know, we don't even draft many left-handed pitchers, which is kind of surprising. You'd think, hey, it's left-handed, but, you know, these guys that we have now, a lot of these righties they feel can get left-handers out also. I'm not a big proponent of that, because I think out of the pen, those guys are really useful. And there's nothing like mixing in a left-handed starter in the middle of your series also. I mean, I'm a proponent, but baseball's kind of, you know, shifted a little bit with, you know, the importance of left-handed starters. So with position guys, you know, we're looking for athletes. We're looking for guys who move really well, you know, good baseball IQ. We feel that guys who hit have an opportunity to hit for power down the road. The power doesn't have to be there first. And I'm a believer in that. These guys get their man strength in their mid-20s, and you know, and now all the showcases are raw power and exit velo. I want to see guys with high bat to ball skills and the ability to use the field, foul pole to foul pole, and the power is going to come. You've probably seen it, you know, year after year over your entire career.
Oh, I have. Yeah, it seems like more scouts are looking for power right away than they are actually looking for developing good hitters to have power.
Yeah, it's. Hitting's the hardest part, you know.
Yeah.
Hitting it out isn't, I don't believe, you know. So it's just like the guy we got over there, Bregman at third base, he just gets him over that yellow line in the Crawford boxes. You know, he doesn't have to hit him 400 feet. So,
yeah, we love him. By the way, we also love Michael Brantley on that squad.
Oh,
My kids are gigantic Jose Altuve fans for reasons. But what are some of the showcases or events that you go to, and how do you get tips on players? How do coaches say, hey, you got to stop by? I've got this kid. We recruited this kid. He's lights out. Or do they try to hide him from you too because they want him for all 4 years?
oh yeah, we I mean, we know who these kids are now since they're 14 years old. It's crazy. You never knew back when I started who the guy was till the spring. You know, that year when you went out, start watching guys. I mean, I don't think anyone heard of Kerry Wood till he, went out there for his first start that spring at high school. So, his senior year. Now we know all these kids and who they are. It's tough to hide them. And what was the rest of that question? I'm sorry, Kelly.
Well, how do you get tips on them?
Oh yeah. No, most of the kids, it's like we have a designed area as an area scout. So It's up to you to find out and make sure if there's some guy down there at Western Junior College in Altus, Oklahoma that you need to see. You better reach out to all these guys and the coaching staffs, but you do get tips along the way, and scouts share information more now than they ever have. There's no secrets anymore, it seems, and I don't want to call it old school, but I still keep them close to the vest and do my own work, and because I enjoy the competition still, trying to get that guy later in the draft, and it only takes one to find out about him before everybody knows sometimes. So you do your own work, you make your own phone calls, and know your area, know who's in it.
And I noticed that you're on Twitter because virtually everybody we don't really push for a big following. We're more into the video views. But those that we bring on the show oftentimes have a lot of followers. Walter Beatty had a lot of followers. We have a lot of those guys out there. You follow everybody. Is this what you do in your research, just to sort of take a look at what's going on? Keep yourself
and I appreciate you mentioning that, because Kelly, you know what? It was never my plan. I started following kids, and all of a sudden, if you put Houston Astros scout on there, if it pops up, boom, hey, everyone wants to follow, because I wish I was playing when I was a kid that, scouts were that accessible, where you just have to tap and hit follow. And next thing you know, I could shoot them videos all night long, which kids do, but, I started kind of getting engaged a little bit more with the kids in the off season. And I put out things, hey guys, open up, let's send me all your videos. And next thing you know, I have 800 videos or, showing up. And I go through some of these, and I'll be honest with you, we did find a couple of kids who we signed off of Twitter, who shot me videos. We had our scouts go see the guys, So it was more, and I'm up to, 18,000, something like that I follow and probably follow back. But if you play and you put a glove on and you're in college, high school, junior college, I'll follow you back. Or a coach. So I've just kind of had fun with it. I don't tweet a whole lot, but when I do, I try to say something that's positive. And, I think we all have we all owe the game something, you know what I mean? I don't like just to shut it down at the end of the day. I still want kids to have the opportunity to be accessible to them. And I think kids enjoy it also, that, hey, there's a scout that wants to see my videos, and I have no problem. I'll sit and watch those for hours sometimes. So
that's
I
nice.
enjoy it.
I say thank you for all the prospects out there who take the time to send you their material and you actually look at it, because I don't think you probably look at more video than some of the college coach recruiters out there.
Oh yeah. And that's funny you say that, because a lot of these kids, I see some interesting stuff, and I know it's just video, but I have jotted down a few kids and gone and seen them and thought, golly, this kid's pretty good, but he's not ready for me. But this kid could help at D1, and I'll make those phone calls for these kids, and tell a coach at this junior college or this D1, hey, you need to go see this guy or that guy. I'll do anything to help kids if they if I think they can help a program, I'll definitely let somebody know. So, and I enjoy it, so.
Kind of like Rick, Rick is amazing with kids. Rick and I, did a clinic not so long ago, and he's a hard guy to pull out of those things. He'll see some kids out there playing catch, in the off season up at the ball field, and he'll say, "See you later, Cal." And he's walking, they're having conversations. This guy is an amazing individual. I'm very honored to work with Rick. Anyway, Rick, you're up.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, being that I've had a few years of experience as a catcher, I always got to finish it up by asking, what do you look for in a catching prospect today? Is it all about the technique or the way they set up behind home plate, the metrics? What actually do you look for in a major league? Who you think is going to be a good major league catcher these days?
Yeah, and that's the $1 million question, because they come in so many different shapes, sizes, and abilities, whether it's a defense first guy or an offensive guy or a glove guy first. I see them go off the board early in the first round for their bat, and then they get in the minor leagues, Rick, and they move them to first base. So it's one after another. I've just keep seeing this. So obviously they probably weren't a very good athlete back there, or they don't move well, or just it's the hardest position absolutely to play on the field. But I think secondly, it's the hardest position to evaluate also from a scout standpoint, because the number one thing everyone looks for is the arm strength. But no, you got to catch the ball before anything else happens. So you have to, all the things that come before throwing are now, and base stealing isn't that big of a part of the game as it was when you were playing. So I'll take less arm strength and a better defensive catcher. Absolutely. As you see, look at the guy we have back there. I know he can really throw, but Maldonado, there's nobody better with a pitching staff, I don't think, right now in Major League Baseball than him. He gets the most out of everybody on that staff, from the first starter to the glass guy out of the bullpen, and the guy who closes the games for us. So that's what I'd like to see, is those guys who are really engaged. They do a good job handling a pitching staff. You have 15 different mentalities and 15 different guys' stuff that you have to be able to catch, and you got to catch it. I can't stand when guys drop the baseball, or they don't take pride in their work back there. That's what I want to see, a guy who plays with energy, good tempo. He cares, he's passionate, and he'll get in the pitcher's ass if he needs to also. So those kind of things you grow to become also. But when you're in college, you better be able to show me those skills. Yeah. But there's all kinds of guys with average major league, what we call a 50 in the major leagues, 50 arm, but they're tremendous defenders back there. And the pitching staff, you got to be able to handle the pitching staff. Maldi hit 200, 170, and he got 2 World Series and 2 American League championships with him. So,
you hit home with me with a lot of things that you just said about what you look for, but of course, Maldonado does well with the Houston Astros, but overall, all of my years of watching it, it's probably the weakest position in the major leagues today for me, because how I evaluate, he's obviously a good, you can read pitchers well, and you've got to be able to read hitters well. And I go back to the Oakland A's in 1988 when Kirk Gibson hit the big famous home run in the first game, and then we never saw him again. But I was worried when I got in catching that series, because we were up against the most powerful team in World Series history on paper, and the best offensive team all around. And we were the weakest team. But they made it the easiest series for me to call pitches because of the way they approached every at-bat. They would come up the first at bat with a big wide open stance. I knew where they wanted to get their hands to, and the middle of the bat, the hitting zone was right down the middle of the plate, middle in. And then they'd come up pigeon-toed, and it was easy to see they're trying to keep the left shoulder in. They're looking to get that pitch on the outside half of the plate and drive it out of the ballpark. So that's when we would just turn everybody around and start pitching them in. We'd push them, try to get them to back open up again, give up the outside half. But you need a lot of years of experience, and that's probably what Maldonado. I won't say that I've seen him catch a lot of games. I just can't stand it when the pitchers and the catchers, excuse me, go to that one knee and in a two-strike situation, or men on base, or men in a stealing situation, and they let the ball get by them. And it just drives me nuts, because that was a lot of my defense and how I took the pressure off the pitcher, because we didn't have as many people in scoring position to worry about anymore. And let me real quick just say, I go back to Steve Stone. Maybe you remember that name. When he became an Oriole, he never won more than 12 games in his life. In the first game, he's got a 1-run lead, men on second and third, and 2 outs in the ninth inning. He's pitching a hell of a good ball game. And 2 strikes on the hit, a right-hand hitter, and nobody out. And I said, listen, I want you to throw this curveball in the dirt. He goes, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. And let them get the tying run off the club plate with the winning run at third base. I said, listen, pal, you don't throw good enough to throw the ball by me. So you throw the curveball in the dirt, I promise you he's going to swing at it. And we're going to get you out of this inning, and you're going to win this ball game. He threw the curveball in the dirt. He says, this is your fault if it gets by. He had blocked it. The guy swung at it, 2 down, pop up. He wins his first game. He goes on to win 25 games and gets a Cy Young Award. 25-7, never won more than 12 games in his life. But those are the kind of things that I miss about the game. The way the catchers, you talk about Maldonado working with that pitching staff, and how I had to work with my pitching staff to get as far as I did, and playing in 3 World Series and 8 divisional titles and all that baloney. But it truly works when you have a catcher who can control the ball game for the organization.
Yeah, that's a tremendous story right there, and it's refreshing to hear it the way you put it so well. It's that undecided. Half of the room says this, and half the new idea of catching is the opposite. Losing a run because a ball wasn't blocked, I mean, it's inexcusable almost. It wasn't when I started scouting, and now it's kind of like it's not just okay, but we're allowing that room for error, which was never allowed before.
You're right,
and I think it's the catcher's job, like you said, like you told the guy, Steve. Don't worry, just throw it. I'll take care of it on my end. And you don't see that much anymore,
They're more worried about the offense.
Absolutely.
You got a catcher back there that can hit you 15 to 25 home runs, and they really don't care about the really intricate parts of the game, and how you get a pitcher through a very tough inning, and what pitches to call. I ask a lot of guys, what's a pitch that a right-hander to a right-hander never looks for in a 2-strike situation? And they can't tell me. Well, I'll tell you, is the breaking ball right at you? It's the only way you're going to get the hitter to jump back from home plate and give up the inside corner. I did it 20, 30 times in the course of my career. You get that strikeout now to get the 2 outs, and then the third one, is a ground ball or a fly ball that would have been a sacrifice fly or something, and you're out of the game. But little things like that, you only use it once in a while, but it's a pitch that you, as a right-hand hitter, never look for, is the breaking ball on the inside corner from a right-hander in tough game situations.
Oh, absolutely.
Rick is looking for an offer. Let's just face reality. Rick's ready to get back. Can you tell?
Oh my God!
He probably could do it. I'm telling you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's great. I love the passion.
I've written a book on it. I tell you, I've written a small book on catching and defense and game situations and all that kind of stuff. And I'm afraid to distribute it, because they probably laugh at me if they try to listen to what I had to go through to last 27 years in professional baseball, 24 of them in the big leagues, what I did and how I conditioned myself and how I never got hurt. I was on the disabled list 2 times in 27 years, but both times with broken bones. Don Gullett threw at me and Bo Jackson ripped me at home plate. So other than that, I never had a sore arm, never had pulled muscles and all that kind of stuff. And I would like to be able to talk to players and let them know really what to look for at the major league level. If you want to make this a career, then you got to treat it like it's a career where you can make millions and millions of dollars now. So I went off on my own, and I'm sorry.
No, Rick, I enjoyed it. It was good. That's great stuff. I agree 100% with everything you said. That was good stuff. You know, I'd love to see the book come out. Yeah, I think you need to finish it. Huh?
I'll tell you what I will do. I will send you the little pamphlet that I have on it. I'll get your address and I'll send you that pamphlet. It'd be fun just to read through it because it also gets into teaching all the 5 facets of the game. You know, how to throw, block, receive, how to field your position, which some of them very rarely know how to do, and how to call a ball game. It's pretty interesting when I've caught 16 Cy Young Award winners during the course of my career, and I've learned a lot from those guys. I've learned a lot from them, and then I've showed them a few tricks of the trade myself. You almost don't even see the pickoff plays anymore. I have at least 3 or 4 times in my career picked a runner off a second base with the bases loaded. You'll never ever see that in the game.
No,
never. And I've done it before because I talked to my shortstop and I said things to him. I said, listen, you know, if you see that guy break, you give up the pickoff at second base and you cut the ball off and you throw it to me. I'll block home plate. Don't worry about that. So, I mean,
of course, he had Mark Belanger, probably shortstop, so you could do that.
And Cal Ripken.
Yeah, a guy named Cal Ripken, right.
This is great stuff. I would love to see what you've got put together because it's you know what, as a scout, if you never sat back there and played the position, you don't know what it's like, you know. And most scouts, I mean, we're all good at what we probably played. You're better at it, or evaluate better at certain positions. The catching position is the hardest to evaluate by far. I mean, you see more catchers, but by AA, they're no longer a catcher; they're a DH.
You'll get a lot of tips. You'll get a lot of tips in these pages. It won't take you long to go through it. I think you'll enjoy
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. Yeah, please do.
Right. Well, anyway, the only question I have for you left on my list of questions was, you know, your scouting. You know, when you came into scouting so many years ago, did you have somebody that you looked up to that was a good scout? How do you determine what is a good scout at the major league level? How do you personally look at that? You know anybody that was really a good scout that you knew?
Oh gosh, yeah. When I started in '93, I was fortunate enough to get on the scouting director for the Indians at the time, and the area guy, and a lot of clubs. I was coaching at a JuCo in Oklahoma, Northeastern Oklahoma Junior College, and several scouts were coming in to see a kid by the name of. I'm from Toronto, Canada originally, so I'd go up there in the summer and bring a bunch of these not a bunch, but a handful of Canadian kids down, and we had 3 or 4 really good ones that year, and the scouts were pouring in there to see a kid by the name of Jason Dixon, who ended up pitching with the Angels for a while. Dickson, right-hander, pitched I
know who he is, actually.
Yeah, 95, 96, 97, had a bunch of injuries after that. I think he made an all-star game also in 96 or 7, but he was there.
Injured a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first introduction to even knowing, you know, anything about scouting. You saw them at the games once in a while, but, you know, I got to know them. They asked me a lot of questions about these kids, so I got to spend the time and visit with these guys. And all of a sudden, the scouting director said, "Hey, you know, we don't have anyone in Canada. You interested in scouting for the summertime in Canada?" And I said, he goes, "I'll give you like $15,000. Go up there and scout from one end of the country to the other. Do what you need to do." I wouldn't even know how to start. So I went up there and I was doing camps by myself across the provinces. I kid you not. And they would put an ad in the paper, and I kid you, there'd be 500-600 kids show up. And I'm the only one there to throw BP, and I'm doing the full 60-yard dash, the in and out BP, and I'm throwing to like 200 or 300 kids, and we did that for most of the summer. But halfway through the summer, the scouting director called me, and I was going to go back to the JuCo, and he said, "Hey, just want to let you know, I fired our scout in North Texas. Do you want the job?" And so I literally packed my stuff and moved down to Fort Worth and opened shop and was the North Texas scout. That was in 93, 94. So that was my first year that year. When I started the scouting, it was a lot different. We didn't talk. I mean, nobody came over and said hello. You didn't talk to anybody. You didn't share names. You didn't share information. Everyone was on their own. You know what I mean? They were all independent. There was no socializing going on. It was just straight up scouting and guys bearing down and doing their work and getting different angles of the ballpark. I didn't. It was hard to get to know them. You know what I'm saying? At first. Then after a while, the guys started to, say hello and visit with you and spend some more time, and you'd run into them once in a while. But no, there was no, we had no social media. We had nothing. No, you just showed up. You may show up in West Texas to go see a kid playing. The game was canceled 2 days before, when you find out when you get there driving 8 hours. But no, totally different. Probably one of the first guys who I really got to know was a guy named Joe Ford, who was with the Blue Jays at the time in Oklahoma. There was guys like Stan Meek was scouting then with the Florida Marlins at the time. There was a lot of really good, once you got to know them, these were super people, and most of them aren't in the game anymore. And, I'm probably one of the older guys out there now. So, over the course of the last 30 years, now I'm in that position. So, the game's changed the way we evaluate. There's a lot, like you go to a game now, an amateur game, and you're battling cameras and tripods set up and guys with high-speed stuff and all kinds of stuff. There's gadgets everywhere, and you're kind of in the middle of it trying to sit behind the plate and evaluate. So it's totally different than when, it's just the way it's evolutionized over the years.
Sure. Well, what advice do you have for any player when they're aware that a scout or recruiter's in the crowd? How do they comport themselves on the field? What do they have to keep in mind other than obviously getting a couple base knocks or making some good plays?
Yeah.
How can they get the recruiter or the scout's attention?
Yeah. Well, firstly, most of these kids now, hey, Kelly, these kids have been on that big stage at these big showcases for so many years that they're very comfortable in their own skin with in evaluators and scouts all around them, because it's just the way it is now. There'll be 100 guys, 200 guys at showcases in Jupiter or the area codes and things like that. These kids are just kind of used to it now. The kids are like on the top end of the draft and the high profile type kids. That's one thing I've really noticed. It doesn't seem to bother them. But what I look for, guys that pay attention. Pay attention to detail. They're engaged in the game. Like a high school game, I can wander from one end of the fence all the way around the other side. I'm keeping my eyes on the kid the entire time just to see how he is with his coaches, his teammates. Is he engaged? Is the effort there? These are, we talk about the two things. We always say it's makeup. Hey, what's his makeup like? I can fool anyone with my makeup, but I don't think you can fool him with your character, and that's why I try to separate the character from the makeup. What's this guy's character? His makeup is his makeup is more suited to he's the guy that wants to be up in the ninth inning, with the tying or winning run on second base. And, he drives the guy in. That's the makeup in him, but his character is all those other things, which it's hard to kind of evaluate. So I think a lot of times I just kind of go with my gut feel off of what this kid's all about. But I evaluate kids at my youngest, basketball game or soccer game or softball. Everywhere you go, you're constantly evaluating every kid on the playing court or surface. So it just becomes embedded in your head. But now these kids are really comfortable now, and I find that they're pretty mature at most of these events to what's going on around them. They seem to be schooled up also. They all have advisors they've had for several years too. So if that answers your question.
It does. Here's another question that I think is on the forefront of a lot of prospects' minds, and that would be baseline metrics. What baseline metrics need to be attained before a ball club will consider signing a player from an offensive standpoint? Not everybody can, hit a ball or tries to hit a ball with a 98 mile per hour exit velo. You certainly take a look at guys like Steve Kwan, Ichiro, some of these smaller hitters who get on base all the time and have a very low strikeout rate. They're not whacking the ball all that hard to go oppo. It's just not necessary. So where is the baseline? You take a look at the Guardians. I'm kind of bloviating here, but it's sort of a point to be made. You look at the Guardians, they were the second winningest team after the All-Star break, and they didn't hit many home runs at all, but they hit the ball oppo, they bunted, they moved runners. They didn't all hit for a really high average, but it was really entertaining baseball. Certainly the Cleveland Guardian ownership is getting their money's worth. What's your take on that, and what are those metrics?
I'll be honest with you, I try not to dig too deep into what the baseline metrics are. We're schooled up a little bit in them from our analytics department, but to be honest with you, it would not be right for me to say exactly what they are because I don't know. I'm trying to just use the human eye and evaluating whether it's this guy has bat speed or the guy has good exit velocity. I'm still looking for those guys who are high barrel contact guys and swing at strikes, know the zone. Lift is not important to me. I want to see guys that have good carry. I try to still stay really traditionally with the things that I was brought up learning as a scout. That was, guys who put the ball in play, drove the gaps, could make outfielders turn and run. I mean, just very simple stuff, and we may be on the cutting edge, the Houston Astros, in so many of these analytical approaches and data driven and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we've been winning championships doing all those small things. We strike out less than anyone else. We hit balls behind runners. We put the ball in play. These guys compete in the box. We have a traditional closer like not many clubs even have anymore.
Yeah.
I think we're one of the traditional, and obviously with Dusty, they're also, we play as traditional style baseball as anybody, from Bregman to the kid Pena at shortstop to Altuve and Gurriel and all the way around the horn. These guys get in that box and compete, and they compete on the other side of the ball on defense as good as anybody. We don't make mistakes, and we keep pressure on the defense. We steal bags. We're aggressive in certain counts. We have guys who really know how to manipulate the barrel and use the field. So I still think that the traditional style of baseball is what's winning championships.
Outstanding. Rick, any parting thoughts?
Well, no, that's just great. I mean, I'm enlightened talking to Jim because he goes back to the old ways that we learned how to play the game fundamentally. And what he's telling me is that's exactly what they're doing with the Houston Astros. Yeah, it's good to have the analytic to a certain extent. The information will not tell you every single thing that goes on the baseball field. But that old style baseball that you're talking about, it does. It still wins a lot of ball games, and it keeps the fans in the seats, which is pretty important too, because it makes the game so much more interesting than it has become just from the analytical approach. What we hear, just uppercut, and swing as hard as you can. It's okay if you only hit 200 and what the heck, it's not okay. But
No,
you're not going to win championships like that. No.
no doubt. It's we were talking about before we came on here, Rick. I mean, we're a fun team to watch, and I think a lot of teams are going to start really copying or trying to, do what we've done. And we plug holes. We don't make wholesale changes. There's a plan in place from ownership down that we have us. And Jeff Bagwell's taken on a big role with us now too, and Enos Cabell and these guys, and they have certain things that we're going to stick with and continue, to keep competing for championships every year.
Yeah.
While everyone else is zigging, or zagging, we're gonna keep, doing what we're doing and what we've been successful with.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us today. Continued success, and let's stay in touch, gentlemen.
Sure.
That's all the time we have for tonight. For all of us at the Prospect Blueprint, here's the quote of the week, and see if you guys can guess who this is. He was the man. The key to hitting for a high average is to relax, concentrate, and don't hit the ball to center. High fly ball to center field. I gave it away. Stay unusual. Gentlemen, have a great holiday. From all of us to all of you, cheers.